Lisa Sutton as Officer Robin Titalia. Lisa Sutton played Officer Titalia, a tough, no-nonsense cop trying to earn her place in a male-dominated precinct. She faced street danger and locker room politics with the same grit. Sharp, street smart, and fearless, she wasn't just keeping up, she was setting the pace. Love strong women in uniform? Like, subscribe, and follow Officer Titalia's beat. Ken Olin as Detective Harry Garibaldi. Before his fame behind the camera, Ken Olin brought flair and edge as Detective Garibaldi. Young, ambitious, and not afraid to ruffle feathers, Garibaldi came in hot, challenging protocol and chasing results. He was style, swagger, and smarts in one sharp package. Love Rebels in Blue? Like, subscribe, and get in on Garibaldi's game. Ed Marinaro as Officer Joe Coffey. Ed Marinaro gave Joe Coffey a heart of gold beneath that hardened badge. Loyal to a fault, Coffey was a rock for his partner and a quiet storm in the squad room. He cared, maybe too much. He bled blue and never backed down. Love emotional depth with street grit? Like, subscribe, and honor Officer Coffey. Gary Miller as Officer Patrick Flaherty. Gary Miller's Flaherty brought rookie energy with a side of idealism. Still learning the ropes, he reminded everyone what it was like to believe in justice before it got messy. He walked the line with a badge and a beating heart. Love the rookie's perspective? Like, subscribe, and walk the beat with Flaherty. Trinidad Silva as Jesus Martinez. Trinidad Silva brought complexity to Jesus Martinez, a streetwise figure caught between crime and community. More than a stereotype, Martinez was layered. Sometimes faux, sometimes fragile. He showed the human side of the streets, even in the darkest corners. Love morally gray characters? Like, subscribe, and watch Martinez steal every scene. Ellen Blake as Officer Kate McBride. Ellen Blake gave us Officer Kate McBride, a calm force of order and compassion in the chaos. She wasn't flashy, but she was firm, a rare voice of reason in a storm of sirens. She kept her cool when the street turned hot. Love balance and brains in a badge? Like, subscribe, and stand behind Officer McBride. Betty Thomas as Officer Lucy Bates. Betty Thomas stole scenes as Officer Lucy Bates, funny, fierce, and endlessly human. A trailblazer in blue, Bates held her own through shootouts and sexism with a smirk and a steel spine. She made you laugh, think, and cheer, sometimes all at once. Love unforgettable female icons? Like, subscribe, and salute Officer Bates. George Weiner as Deputy D.A. Bernstein. George Weiner brought sharp intellect and political tension as Deputy D.A. Bernstein. Always in a suit, always calculating. Bernstein reminded everyone that the real battles weren't just on the streets. They were in the courtroom. He didn't carry a gun, but he carried power. Love the behind-the-scenes legal drama? Like, subscribe, and keep your eye on Bernstein. Joe Spano as Lieutenant Henry Goldblum. Joe Spano gave heart and depth to Lieutenant Goldblum, the soft-spoken idealist in a world that didn't often reward empathy. A hostage negotiator and community cop, Goldblum led with his soul, not his fists. He was the quiet center of the storm. Love, brains, and compassion behind the badge? Like, subscribe, and ride with Goldblum. Michael Warren as Officer Bobby Hill. Michael Warren played Officer Bobby Hill, a smart, calm, and street-savvy cop who brought balance to the madness. As a black officer in a charged precinct, Hill faced pressure on all sides and handled it with honor. He was the voice of reason and a rock on the beat. Love dignity under fire? Like, subscribe, and respect Bobby Hill's legacy. Bruce Weitz as Sergeant Mick Belker. Bruce Weitz chewed up the screen as Sergeant Mick Belker, the gruff, growling undercover cop with a heart of gold. From snarling at suspects to calling his mom mid-shift, Belker was unpredictable and unforgettable. He made weird, lovable, and rage-righteous. Love wild cards with loyalty? Like, subscribe, and bark along with Belker. Dennis Franz as Lieutenant Norman Bunce. Dennis Franz brought fire and ferocity to Lieutenant Norman Bunce, a tough-as-nails cop who wasn't afraid to bend rules or break them. Bunce walked the line between justice and chaos and made it look natural. He was a bulldog in a badge with bite. Love your anti-heroes hot and gritty? Like, subscribe, and go full bunts. Keel Martin as Officer J.D. LaRue. Keel Martin nailed the charm and tragedy of J.D. LaRue, a cop with talent, trouble, and a drinking problem. He made you laugh, then broke your heart, all in the same episode. He was flawed, funny, and oh so real. Love complex characters who keep it messy? Like, subscribe, and pour one out for LaRue. Veronica Hamel as Joyce Davenport. Veronica Hamel gave Joyce Davenport strength, brains, and elegance. As a public defender, she was a legal force who didn't flinch in a room full of cops. Sharp in court, softer with Fiorillo, she brought balance and brilliance. She proved justice had a fierce, feminine voice. Love smart, fearless women in power? Like, subscribe, and back Joyce Davenport. Charles Hayde as Officer Andy Renko. Charles Hayde brought raw charisma to Officer Andy Renko, the loudmouth with a cowboy heart. From shootouts to heartbreaks, Renko wore every emotion on his sleeve, sometimes to his own peril. Brash, bold, and always entertaining, Renko never faded into the background. Love passion with a punch? Like, subscribe, and roll with Renko. Barbara Bosson as Faye Fiorillo. Barbara Bosson lit up the screen as Faye Fiorillo, the ex-wife who refused to fade away. She was chaotic, hilarious, and surprisingly poignant, constantly challenging Frank and the audience. She was more than just the nagging ex. She was a voice that demanded to be heard. Love characters who stir the pot? Like, subscribe, and salute Faye Fiorillo. Daniel J. Travanti as Captain Frank Fiorillo. Daniel J. Travanti anchored the show as Captain Frank Fiorillo, calm under pressure, endlessly moral, and quietly broken inside. He kept Hill Street together when it threatened to fall apart every day. He was leadership, integrity, and vulnerability in one powerful performance. Love your heroes, steady and strong? Like, subscribe, and stand with Frank Fiorillo. Torian Black as Detective Neil Washington. Torian Black gave Detective Neil Washington quiet confidence and unwavering loyalty. He wasn't flashy. He was effective. Whether covering his partner or chasing down leads, he moved with silent strength. Washington was the cool you never saw coming. Love silent strength in the chaos? Like, subscribe, and follow Washington's lead. Robert Hirschfeld as Officer Leo Schnitz. Robert Hirschfeld played Officer Leo Schnitz, the old-school beat cop with a slow stride and deep wisdom. He wasn't chasing glory, just keeping the peace, one small win at a time. Schnitz showed that even the quietest voices matter. Love the everyday heroes? Like, subscribe, and walk a mile with Schnitz. Robert Prosky as Sergeant Stanislaus Jablonski. Robert Prosky brought grounded grit to Sergeant Jablonski, the no-nonsense desk sergeant who took over the roll call with heart and humor. He wasn't flashy, but he was steady and always watching. He reminded the squad what the job really meant. Love the backbone of the precinct? Like, subscribe, and clock in with Jablonski. James Sicking as Lieutenant Howard Hunter. James Sicking gave Lieutenant Hunter his unforgettable blend of military precision and comedic arrogance. Obsessed with tactics and always battle-ready, Hunter was part satire, part sincerity. He was a walking contradiction and completely iconic. Love the offbeat command types? Like, subscribe, and stand at attention for Hunter. John Cipher as Chief Fletcher Daniels. John Cipher portrayed Chief Fletcher Daniels, the political puppet master always pulling strings from downtown. Smooth, strategic, and often smirking, he wasn't on the streets, but he sure controlled what happened there. He talked like a diplomat, but played like a street hustler. Love your power plays behind the scenes? Like, subscribe, and keep an eye on Daniels. Rene Enriquez as Lieutenant Ray Calitano. Rene Enriquez brought quiet intensity to Lieutenant Ray Calitano, Fiorillo's loyal second-in-command. Torn between his heritage, his duty, and the politics of command, Calitano was principled and often under pressure. He stood tall in the shadows, making hard calls with heart. Love quiet strength in the line of fire? Like, subscribe, and ride with Calitano. Michael Conrad as Sergeant Phil Esterhaus. Michael Conrad made Sergeant Esterhaus legendary. With his iconic roll call line, "Let's be careful out there," he became the soul of Hill Street. Wise, warm, and deeply respected, Phil was the father figure every cop leaned on. When he spoke, the whole room listened. Love the moral compass of the force? Like, subscribe, and honor Sergeant Esterhaus. Peter Jurasik as Sid Thurston. Peter Jurasik gave us Sid Thurston, the lovable low-level hustler who always knew more than he should. Whether he was scamming, snitching, or sweet-talking his way out of trouble, Sid brought comic relief and real heart. He was the con man with a conscience and an inside scoop. Love your crooks clever and charming? Like, subscribe, and roll with Sid Thurston.